All right, hello. My name is Michael Stack, and I'm with TV Fanatic.
Hello, Michael.
So, so let's get started. So a question you probably got a lot, but what made this, you think, the right time to lower the age for American Ninja Warrior? Because obviously that's not a light decision to make.
Yeah, it's something that we spent a lot of time deliberating, and a lot of it had to do with the success of the 13 and 14-year-olds on American Ninja Warrior Junior, which is for those of your followers that are not aware, is an offshoot of American Ninja Warrior for 9 through 14-year-olds. They compete in an age group. The 9 and 10-year-olds are in one group, 11 and 12 in another, 13 and 14-year-olds are the oldest. And coincidentally, it's the third season is going to be start streaming on Peacock in September. But we saw the 14-year-olds in particular on that show were just remarkably capable, and they also train with a lot of our veteran ninja warriors who we know well, and these ninjas had been telling us for years how incredible these kids were and how they could hold their own against the veterans. And we saw in the local ninja competitions, a lot of which are broadcast, that they were at the tops of the leaderboards, and it felt illogical to make them sit on the sidelines from the ages of 15 to 18 for no good reason. And we looked at Olympic sports, gymnastics, and swimming, where there are a lot of teenage competitors that perform very well, that win medals, that are just as capable as the adults, if not more. And we felt like it made sense to at least try it, to see how they would do. We wondered how they would do under the bright lights on the bigger courses. We tested all of the obstacles for safety to make sure that there were no issues. But the reality is that the 15-year-olds are they've grown a lot since we saw them when they were 14 and 13. And they're as big as the majority of our adult ninjas. And they've been under the spotlights because most of them have competed on television before. They've been in these local competitions. They're not intimidated. And the results have borne out our suspicions, is that they're not only capable, they're elite, and they're pushing our veteran ninjas to places that they haven't been pushed to before. So it's been, and on top of all that, we're always looking for ways to refresh the show. And so we knew it would be exciting to see how they would do, good or bad. It would be fascinating to watch, and that they would have some new stories to tell. And we're always looking for new people to introduce to our audience and new stories to tell. And the type of person that is that successful at such a young age invariably is a unique type of individual with a unique mindset, and something that's admirable, and that our audience would be interested in hearing more about. And so we were excited to tell those stories to and introduce those people to our audience.
That's great. And I like what you said about the dynamic with the veteran ninjas with the new ninjas. How do you think that the dynamic has changed, like, on the course itself? Because all the ninjas are usually very supportive of each other, and they love to see each other succeed. So how do you think that's transcended with the new age groups as well?
There's a new layer to it, because the majority of these teenage ninjas have mentors who they're now competing with and against. And so we've seen that play out in really fascinating ways. Without giving too much away, we've seen the mentors are always on the sidelines or on the screens, and they're always rooting for them and hoping, as always, hoping that they're going to do well. But later in the season, when competition comes into play more, and they're fighting for the final spots to go to the national finals, or fighting for a spot on the power tower, or even competing against each other on the power tower, it's really amazing to watch these dynamics shift a little bit. And there's always that moment where the student surpasses the teacher. And so we've seen some of those moments happen this season where the teenage students are suddenly on par with their longtime mentors and leaders, and it's an interesting thing to watch. I think it happens in all walks of life. We're ultimately the elite student. It's very much like a Luke Skywalker Yoda type of moment, where you just realize that all the lessons have been imparted, and now it's time to take this energy out into the world and see how it performs. And so yeah, a lot of these dynamics, some of them have been really amazing to watch with some of these kids that have been training with their mentors since they were 9 or 10 years old. And when you look back at the video, and they're only 3 feet tall and they can barely do a salmon ladder, and now here they are hitting buzzers with their heroes on the sidelines. That's really remarkable to watch, and it's exciting for us as producers to see it all come. It's like a year, it's a 5-10 year long project for us, and we're getting to see it play out.
Yeah, that's really lovely because the camaraderie is a big part of what makes American Ninja Warrior such a pleasure to watch, just because it's like they are competing, but they're also supporting each other and wanting each other to do well. And I'm glad that that's transcending with the kids as well. And so you mentioned about testing like safety and things with bringing kids into the obstacles. So was anything changed? Was anything needed to be made differently? Because some kids are lighter, shorter.
Yeah. No, we did consider all that, and we brought in a lot of teenagers into our facility to test all the obstacles, and we ran through all of the mathematics actually with OSHA, and made sure that all the distances were correct and safe, and that they all adhered to all of the guidelines. And the reality is that if you've seen the first few episodes, some of these teenagers are 6'1" and 5'10", and they may not have the bone density of us grown-ups, from sitting on the couch for so many years. So they're very springy and flexible, and they do have an excellent strength to weight ratio, which works to their advantage. But in terms of safety, it's not really an issue. We've seen that by the time they're 15 or 16, they're developed enough that their bodies are essentially the same size as the majority of our adults. And we've had plenty of grown-ups that were 4'10" to 5 feet tall, and they perform well too. Casey Catanzaro, who is arguably the most famous ninja of all time, is only 5 foot and 95 pounds. So most of our teens are bigger than Casey.
That's funny. And no, that's good. And when it came to, so how long did you say that you've been working on making this decision to bring in a younger age group? Because you mentioned that it's been in the works for a little bit.
Well, it was actually planned for season 12, but because of the pandemic, we had to cut down our field of competitors considerably, and there were a lot of considerations regarding teens and travel and safety that we didn't want to deal with in season 12. It didn't seem worth the risk. And so we pushed it down for season 13. So it's been about 2 years that we've been considering it. And it's something that we hadn't really thought about. We did lower the age from 21 to 19 a few years ago. And that was when we had started to see these younger adults in the competitions, the local competitions, and in the gyms that were performing so well. And the difference between 19 and 21 didn't seem that significant. So it only seemed logical at the time to make that change. We hadn't really considered a secondary change until we saw Ninja Warrior Junior, and we saw these 13 and 14-year-olds just crushing courses. And we could tell, from the way they were crushing those courses, that they could hold their own. And that's when we started to think about it. And then we tried to implement it for season 12. But as I mentioned, it got sidetracked until season 13.
Well, they seem like they are very much enjoying being on the main course. And how do you think that's going to change like dynamics of new ninjas, not just teenagers, but also adults in the future? How do you think that's going to influence more people to start joining the sport?
Well, I do think you'll see more teenagers get involved in the sport. What we have seen is that having the ability to start training on ninja obstacles at a younger age certainly pays off. You can't discount the amount of time that these teenagers put in the gym, And it's certainly an advantage to not have a full-time job and not have a family to raise, and and be able to go to the gym every day after school. And so I do think we'll see more teenagers get involved in Ninja Warrior. And it's really interesting because what I have appreciated about these teenagers in particular is that they are multi-sport stars. They do compete for their high schools in football and baseball and track and field. And they're not exclusively dedicated to ninja. They do spend a lot of time in the ninja gym. But we've also, we've seen in the past, it's been mostly gymnasts and those types of athletes that have taken to Ninja Warrior. And now we're seeing these teenagers that come from all different sports and all different avenues compete. And as to how it's going to affect the adults, I don't know. I mean, I think that you may see more families in the gym because we do see that it's something that's for everybody. And it's also fun to see these teenagers drag their parents into the gym to do their thing, and the parents find a fun way to train and stay fit.
That's fun. And I also feel like it probably will even influence the more veteran ninjas to kind of up their game, because now there's these young people, like you said, with time and energy that they may not have. So one final question, just what can we look forward to in the future with just adding more kids, adding more obstacles, adding more fun stuff to watch?
Sure. I mean, I think the other thing that we really haven't talked about here is split decision, which is a new element that we've added this year, where the ninjas have to use their brains. It's been purely a physical sport for all these years, and now we're presenting them with a new challenge, and that's somewhere on the course. In qualifying, it's at the balance obstacle, where they have to choose between two balance obstacles. It's always been hard enough to take on one balance obstacle, and now you actually have to put your mind to work and choose between two, one of which or both of which you may have taken on before and may have fallen on before. And so you have that decision: if you fell on this one before, do you want to overcome your demons and defeat it? No, and now you can put that behind you for the rest of your life. Or do you want to run away from that thing that's been haunting your dreams since for the last year? So we've seen both. We've seen people take on something that took them out, and we've seen them go the other direction. And when we get to semifinals, the split decision becomes an entirely new challenge. And when you get to position 9, the 9th obstacle, you have to choose between an upper body obstacle, which has been the traditional obstacle in that place, or an incredibly challenging balance obstacle, something that hardly anybody can get through. And so as viewers know, a lot of times athletes get to position 9 and they're just done. They have nothing left. They have no grip left. They have nothing left in their forearms, their upper body. And they kind of go through the motions on 9 just because, you got to try your best. But they know when they start that they don't have a chance. Well, now if they know that when they get there, they can go to the right and try a balance obstacle. I know that although it may be nearly impossible, it's only nearly impossible, which means that there is a part of it that's possible. And so it's interesting to watch some of them deliberate between trying something that they're almost sure they can't do and something that they're sure they can't do, and which one are they going to choose. And so that kind of stuff is brand new this year and really exciting. And as we head into another off season after this summer, we'll explore new ways to push our ninjas to new places.
I'm excited to see those decisions in the semifinals. That'll be very interesting.
Yeah,
I
it's
think.
fascinating. And with the power tower looming too, some of the decision is about time. You know that the upper body is going to take longer than the balance, but the balance may be more difficult. So if you really want to go for that safety pass, do you risk running across this hard balance obstacle, or do you go through the one that you're more confident you can get through, but it's also going to cost you time?
Interesting. Yeah, that'll be very interesting to see the decisions.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for your time. This was
sure.
really cool. This was really informative, and thank you.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it, Michael.